Hi everyone, welcome to the GoldFish Report. I'm your host and researcher, Louisa. Today is Monday, June 1st, 2020. This is our GoldFish Report 500 series. It's a special series, it's a multi-part series presenting a multidisciplinary look at what we're considering the greatest threat to mankind, artificial intelligence. Joining me today to present this segment to our viewers is, of course, my co-host, Steve. Thanks so much for being here, Steve.
Good to be here and great to have Dan on the show.
And our guest today, who we'll be talking about some very heavy things, folks, and I just wanted to prepare you because I think a lot of it's going to shock you. We have a returning guest to the GoldFish Report who has not been here since a very long time. Back 199 was the last time I think he joined us. This is Sergeant Daniel Brad MacBolen III from the United States Air Force, working having experience with the USAP projects, which are unacknowledged special access projects. So welcome back, Dan. It's been a long time.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me. I appreciate it. I look forward to jumping right in.
Yeah, Dan has been on the GoldFish Report in the past. We have talked about MKUltra programs that have been the military has been involved in. And what we're going to be talking about today, I just want to, right off the top, screen share a video about artificial intelligence. This is from Elon Musk, and then we're going to start the conversation from here, because I think we need to put this into context, and I'm going to do that right now. So here we go.
The percentage of intelligence that is not human is increasing, and eventually we will represent a very small percentage of intelligence. I try to convince people to slow down AI, to regulate AI. This was futile. I tried for years. Usually there'll be some new technology. It will cause damage or death. There will be an outcry. There will be an investigation. Years will pass. There will be some sort of insight committee. There will be rulemaking. Then there will be oversight, eventually regulations. This all takes many years. This is the normal course of things. This time frame is not relevant to AI. You can't take 10 years from the point at which it's dangerous. It's too late. But one thing is for sure, we will not control it. Your phone is already an extension of you. You're already a cyborg. You don't even, well, most people don't realize they are already a cyborg. That phone is an extension of yourself. It's just that the data rate, the rate at which, the communication rate between you and the cybernetic extension of yourself that is your phone and computer is slow. It's very slow. And that is like a tiny straw of information flow between your biological self and your digital self.
Let me just stop there because that's huge. This is where we're going with this. We're already cyborgs through the use of our phone. Our phone is already an extension of ourself, and this is among the topics we're going to talk about. So, Dan, you have the floor. How is the phone an extension of ourself? He doesn't explain how.
Well, basically what takes place is back in, I think it was 2004, not really sure, Duke University came out with, they manufactured several different types of micro particle accelerators and used in combination with lithium-ion batteries. It could be a very explosive situation. But the biggest thing is, since 1999, they've been spraying chemtrails, and in these chemtrails, you'll find delivery systems, which are, I call it HEGI fibers, hegemonic electronic genetically produced yarn, which is like nanotubes, these Buckminster Fuller tubes that have a payload, and these payloads have been accumulating in your body. You breathe it in through your lungs, it goes in, crosses the blood-brain barrier, drops off as little teeny packages, which are nanophasions. They're bigger than a nanometer. And basically what they are is like little spiders that manufacture themselves, and they can manufacture larger nanophasions. And the research material for this, it can be seen at dataasylum.com. A fellow, last time I think he wrote on there was 2012, but the infestation and the infection took place. And I guess he maintains that site, but it's exhaustive research. So if a person wanted to know, dataasylum.com, standard spelling, you can go there and see multiple, just hundreds of examples of how this has been done to you. And it's already over. I mean, the last input this guy had was in 2012. It's the downloading of these nano and microbiota and smart dust is already, it's already in you. You're breathing, it's in you. And then basically some of the things that, well, if you can show that, Louisa,
Which one?
these nanophasions can take over the neurosynapses of the brain. And when you have millions of these, and each time these in a group begin to take over the neural synapses of your brain, taking over your mind, you get the sensation of burning hair or burning feathers. But here it is, this is an illustration of the nanophasion coming in to a close proximity to the brain's, just one of the brain's neural synapses. And
what's it doing? I was capturing it. Okay.
Yes, and it captures it, and basically at this node, it can shut down what's going on naturally and begin to inject reality upon the brain.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And once these payloads are like little Buckminster Fuller tubes, once they're in your body, they're programmed. They're clear ones, they're red ones, white, blue ones, but each one has their own little thing that they do. But when they're not programmed, they grow like muscle fibers, like hedgy fibers, which are like an artificial nerve. And it'll go right through your natural nerve, through the myelin sheath of your nerves, and it causes tremendous amount of pain. Well, this back, I'd say 7 years ago, became critical with what's called Morgellons disease. And what it is it's this hedgy yarn, or these artificial nerve systems that were previously delivery systems for the nanophasions. They just go crazy, and your body sees them and recognizes them as a foreign object, because it actually is. You know, it takes about 440 degrees Fahrenheit to consume these things. They're pretty indestructible. You can get rid of them by knowing electrochemical processes. Yes, what you're seeing is the infestation or infection of human hosts that have been just inundated with these. And once they drop their payload off, of course, they're not programmed any longer, and they go crazy, and they'll start coming out of the skin. The body.
How are they programmed? How are they programmed, Stan?
Well, when they have the payload in there, the payload itself, the nanophasion, will actually do the programming of the tube. You go here, go there. It can drive it. Once it leaves, the hedgy yarn is on its own, and it just is worked out of its way out of the body.
So are they pre-programmed when they're deployed? Are they pre-programmed?
Yes, and they communicate with Wi-Fi. They communicate with Wi-Fi. They communicate with any signal from the Wi-Fi, and it can literally, you can open up and have these nanophasions become active based on area, based on gender, based on genre of who. You can do it in groups. But basically what you're doing is you're taking over the mind. You're taking over the mind, which takes over the body.
Is that a two-way communication? Sorry, is that a two-way communication?
Absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely.
Okay, I have a question too.
Go ahead.
Good.
Dan, you have to stop for a breath, and when you do, I'll try to get a question. Okay, so are these okay? So Elon Musk said that the phone is an extension of ourself. And do we have to have these fibers in us in order to have this interaction with the phone as he's talking about?
Yeah.
Okay, and you're going to get to that. Okay, thanks.
Yeah, well, the fibers come in and dump the payload, and then they're there, and it's a part of basically an alternative artificial nervous system. The hedgy fibers act as a great antenna because it is metal. It's a type of new metal, or I have a hard time. It's a synthetic. It's a manufactured metal.
Synthetic.
And so
right.
basically it can act as an antenna to bring in better signals. But the bottom line is they're trying to do something called ghost walking. And right now you have the puppet master would be your cell phone, your smartphone. They can run programs through the smartphone, interface with your brain through all these systems of microbotics and nanobotics and smart dust in the form of puppet master. It's biological information programming interface, and you have a module, a bio API module in your computer. You have it in your smart toaster. You have it in your smart microwave. You have it, and all these items, these devices, can communicate with your brain. They can pick up your thoughts. They look for basic patterns, as AI does. And on the planet, you've got about 6 AI programs that are run amok here. One of them is called Tyler. And Tyler is what you find working with QAnon.
Tyler is an AI. You're talking, wait, is this a quantum computer you're talking about?
Yes. Tyler has access to quantum computing and quantum.
Could you just explain for a second who Tyler is? Yeah.
It's basically an AI program that's been allowed to become sentient, self-learning. But you've got everything, the more dangerous ones, because Tyler basically runs a quantum financial system, or that's what I've been told its purpose is. But it also gathers data for taking down the deep state. But there are other malevolent AIs, one which is a good AI, which is gray. The gray goo, what they call it, is basically something that was set in motion during the periods of creation. And it basically aids the evolution of a species, and it keeps producing life on a planet. And that's pretty much what is galaxy-wide, so to speak. Then you have the black goo, which was a mistake that the Anunnaki Archon Dracos came up with, because they did take the gray goo, they changed it and programmed it after their own agenda, which is, garbage in, garbage out. It takes on, the program itself takes on a persona of a predatory pathogenic artificial intelligence.
PPAI, which you call PPAI. Right. Okay.
Right. Now, that was coined by Alfred Weber. But also you have the source behind this, because when the bad guys they tried to turn the gray goo into a weapon. And like a film that was produced in 2015 called Prometheus, it took them over. And it's infected all of their race, and it's affected all these other races. And now the true puppet master is the Oracle Golden Gate, which is Animus. Animus is the name that we were told by a group of future humans who use time travel to come back and leave us a little bit of notes on how to prepare for the coming of Animus. Animus is like the Borg. It's like a collective of black goo artificial intelligences running even the bad guys. I mean, it's running the bad guys. It's trying to run the good guys.
Okay, question. But that's on one timeline. That's one probable timeline. That's not a is that a probable timeline, or is that pretty much etched in stone? Because it's all, I mean, even in the future there's many timelines, isn't that right? So how does that work? Or maybe not, I don't know.
In a 3D structure, you have 1,728 constructs. It's just the way physics works. You have 1,728 constructs, and Animus is in all of these constructs. And what we're trying to do is the wing makers who came back from the future were spared this in their timelines. They came back and went to as many timelines as they could of the 1,728 different constructs. They came back and shared information on how to defeat Animus when Animus got there. Animus is sort of like the Borg. They literally, as a collective, travel in these huge cube-shaped spaceships that contain a Dyson sphere on the inside. And so basically what they do is they want to take over humankind in the form of technical possession and elevate them itself into the next dimensional shift. And we're at the point in time when the Earth is ready to enter into the high fourth dimension, and the beginning of the fifth dimension, in which we start this 26,600 year cycle again. And this is just a terrain in which we currently find ourselves deployed. It's a great time to be alive, and it's a great time to know that this material exists and it's trying to take over your brain, and it'll try to ghost walk you, and if you don't conform, it'll torture you, like we've seen with some of the situations with the brave Dr. Catherine Horton. She's really a brave woman. She won't comply. She's very strong-willed and very intelligent, and she won't comply. And so it's not like trying to tell her what to do. She just won't do any of it. And they don't want to control her. They can't control her. She's one of those percentages that cannot be controlled. So they torture her in an attempt to gain compliance.
But this is exactly what targeted individuals. I mean, this might give another perspective on targeted individuals, though, because it's almost like anybody who doesn't go along with their program essentially becomes targeted. That's basically what you're saying. Yeah. So, but it's run through AI. But it's run through AI, which has access to us because of everything we've inhaled, all the nanobots, smart dusk, and all this other stuff from the chemtrails. Is that correct?
Right. Yes.
Steve, you have a comment, Steve, or question?
In control.
Well, I've just sort of gone off on a tangent myself, thinking about the technology of the Dyson sphere and the cube. But because I'm trying to recall my memory from reading about these things. But anyway, please go on. I don't want to distract the golf.
Sorry, go ahead. No, I just want to stop every once in a while to kind of, get some feedback, because our viewers, Dan's got a lot of information, and this is. You have to stop. You might even have to pause this video to kind of, absorb it all, and kind of. That's why I wanted to ask if you had some feedback up to this point.
Well, absolutely. I think for the people who may not know, if you could just quickly explain who the wing makers are. That sort of, so you just skipped over that.
Oh, okay. Well, basically, it's a group of individuals. It's human beings in the future that survived without being taken over by the Animus, which were well aware of the situation of this collective AI that's a rogue and how it was created, and they had solutions. So they came back and established what's known as the ancient arrow site near Animas, New Mexico, at the base of Little Tank Mountain.
Right.
And what they did is they came down and left us little plasmic and post-plasmic toys by which we could overcome Animus. And so they left it here for us. There was a group called the Advanced Contact Intelligence Organization, ACIO, and they gave them the information where these tools and resources were. There's like 24 chambers, 23 which were physical, and the 24th was multidimensional. And they left us, and of course we took all of those tools, took them and hid them. And when the time when Animus comes and openly tries to say, well, this is how it's going to be, that's when these tools and resources will come out, and Animus will be stopped. It will be deleted.
Yeah. Okay. So we got a future humans who've gone through all this. They've succeeded on their timeline to defeat Animus. They've decided to come back and manipulate other timelines, or in order to eradicate the threat. I'm understanding this correctly, and. Yes. But at the same time, when you start mucking around with timelines, you have to be careful what you wish for, because it has unexpected consequences. That's also right, isn't it?
That's great, because you don't come back and interface with people and talk with them. That in and of itself changes history.
Yeah.
The concept is you want to come in with the least amount of, if nobody even knows you're there, that's the best way. Even observation of a timeline can change and does change that timeline.
Yeah.
But the bottom line is come drop off the material, give them the information.
Get the hell out of there.
Usually two person, get the hell out of there, and let them unfold as it would be a natural course of discovery.
Right, but leaving toys that will influence our future is a huge thing in of itself.
Yes, but
right.
It's necessary for survival. These are weapons. Right. More so than toys, but they appear to be, art and music and sound and frequencies, but everything in the Matrix is a collection of complex frequencies. We're all frequency based. The very basis matter of life is based on the yin yang of the blue shifted high speed photon getting captured by the low speed red shifted phonon, and they get together and do the dance of life, and it's the circle of completion, it's a circle of balance, and it produces a threefold force called the Lorentz force. You'll see that the blue high shifted photon is captured by the low frequency, low energy red shifted phonon, and they do the dance. They're spinning and they get nice and cozy, and as a result it creates the Lorentz force. Well, there are many parts of the Lorentz force that is not exposed in Maxwell's equations. One of them is that the Lorentz force has an electromotive force, it has a plasmic force, and it has a post-plasmic force. In the plasmic force, you'll find a lot of quarks up top and charmed quarks, and you'll see down bottom and strange quarks. Then when you get to the post-plasma, you're dealing with what's called the morphogenic field. That's where human beings excel, because they have the metagene factor, the metagene, the God gene, whatever you want to call it, and accessing the morphogenic field allows us to manifest something out of nothing by sheer thought alone. And it brings into, based on the thought of the individual and the intention of causality.
Okay, so this is what you were talking about here, where if you want to explain that again. Do you see the image on your screen? Can you see that?
I do.
Okay, thanks.
Now, when this is spinning very rapidly, it produces three fields. The electromagnetic force field, it manufactures the plasmic field, and which can be hot or cold plasma. And then post-plasma is something that is more etheric, and it gets into the morphogenic. It morphs, and everything in life is based on this construct of light alone. When you get one of these phonon pairs, you add 917 more to this little group and let them get nice and cozy in the circle of life, and you got yourself an electron. You take another 917 of those electrons, put them together, let them get nice and cozy, let them communicate with each other. Then you've got yourself a proton. Take 917 of those protons, put them together, add one teeny little electron on the outside, and you've got yourself a stable neutron. Together, the three of them make the deuterium atom. Well, human beings and everything around us is all based on photoradionics, this type of photoradionics. And everything's made of the same stuff. We are no different from the stuff other than based on our manifestation of what we need. It's like, yeah, I need a chair. Well, before you know it, somebody's going to build one. Well, where did it come from? It came from the mind of human beings who had the God gene. Excuse me, had the they can access the morphogenic field. They can manifest it out of nothing, or they can take what they have and manufacture it.
So that's our advantage over the AI. They can't do that. They can't interface with the morphogenetic field. Therefore, they need us to access that.
In order to carry out their agenda of ascending into the fifth dimension, they have to use human beings to do it. And it wants to, it's malevolent, so it wants to take over. It's taken over the third dimension in this sector of the galaxy, and then it wants to take over the fifth dimension. And it's on a conquering mode because the people that programmed this were, didn't really have a whole lot going on for themselves, but they did know how to conquer other civilizations and steal their technology. And so you see this take place in the movie, in the portrayal of the engineers.
So I wanted to just, take a break for a second and mention to our viewers that this idea of the wing makers, a lot of people have heard about them, and this idea of time travel is not foreign to Dan at all, because Dan has had experience working at places like Area 51, and where there's lots of really unusual things going on there. So this is not uncommon conversation to have with Dan, just so that everyone's familiar with. It's something where you have to kind of expand your thinking, and if you're really stuck in the, or I would say stuck, but I mean if you're really looking for the concrete evidence, it's just not something that our military is ready to release to the masses. So it doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. It doesn't mean it's not measurable. It just means that we're not allowed to know about it. Isn't that right?
Right. It's basically referred to as Olin perceptron physics, one language intelligence network. So it basically Olin perceptron physics is based on having, instead of having multiple computer languages, you have one language intelligence network. And that's what ACIO actually works with, is Olin. And once you understand that it has to do with the programming of it, has to do with your perception. What you can perceive, you can achieve. That's where that terminology came from, was that type of advanced thinking. And they were making advanced contact with non-terrestrial off-world intelligences. And that's how we ended up with the yellow cube device. And they say, well, how can you have 27,000 sentient species between here and Zeta Reticuli? How can you have that many species? Well, there are sentient species along the various civilization levels. We're a zero, civilization zero. But you have 1, 2, and 3 levels of civilization, and there's a lot of, just because we can't see them or perceive them, doesn't mean they're not there. And so when we start setting off, let's say, atomic devices, we're killing people in a lot of different dimensions. We're hurting people. And that's why all these folks, when we began to pop the fireworks, they came and said, whoa, what are you doing? Would you stop doing that? You're killing a lot of people.
Well, that's when they showed up. They showed up. Isn't that true though, Dan? That's when they started to show up. That's why they created Project Blue Book, because we had some visitors who didn't want us to have this nuclear technology that we were using because it was interfering with other people, other civilizations, and other dimensions. Now, Jesus himself, said that in the Bible it says that there's more unseen than there is seen. So I guess that's what you're referring to here too. I mean, you can look at it that way, can't you? Steve,
Yes.
what do you think?
Well, if you look at it,
Well, yeah.
Dan?
Go ahead, Dan.
Yeah, anything that jiggles is alive and has some form of communicable intelligence. Rocks, the Bible says the rocks will cry out, but everything has intelligence. And amongst the native tribes, you have legends about the trees being alive and conscious. You have legends about the stones being conscious and alive. Right. But if it has a jiggle, it's alive, and the way that you access that is through the morphogenic field by knowing what the password is. It's just a very complex computer, and if you got the password, baby, you're in.
So literally, you can have a pet rock and talk to it and everything, because rocks have a consciousness. Because they, at a molecular level, they can still access the quantum field that anybody can access, right? And so why wouldn't they have access to a consciousness, right? So you can have a pet rock, and you can, like, a soccer ball, put hair on it, like Wilson, right? No, that was a whole other meaning. But yeah, a rock.
And if you're listening, you can get information from it because it has access to the hydrogen hyperfine transition line. Which
Say that again? Say that again. What did you just say?
It has access. Well, the morphogenic field gives us
say that word again.
To the hydrogen hyperfine transition line.
Say it again.
And the evidence of that
hydrogen?
Is the hydrogen hyperfine.
Yeah.
Hyperfine.
Yeah.
Transition line.
Transition
line.
I'm sorry, it's just the internet sometimes cuts out, and I miss some of the phonemes that you're saying. Okay. And what is a hydrogen hyperfine transition line? Well, what is that?
Well, people have known about this forever. It's basically what you'd call the Akashic record. Your body itself has a morphogenic field, which contains a hydrogen hyperfine transition line that rides on the very edge of your electromagnetic signature. When you go to sleep at night, your mind's eye, which is connected to your physical eye, which is connected to your mind's eye, looking around, goes through into stage 4 REM sleep. You start taking the experiences in a holographic form of the day, and you're programming it into your own personal hydrogen hyperfine transition line, which is your personal your Akashic record. Now, over a period of 24 hours, that gets uploaded to the planet's intelligence network, the advanced intelligence network, which is one language, morphogenics, photoradionics. And what happens is within 24 hours, if you go to sleep, you reach N4 stage sleep. You upload to your natural Akashic or your hydrogen hyperfine transition line, which uploads to the hyperfine transition line of the Earth, which in turn uploads to the center of the galaxy, the main central sun. And so everybody knows everything through hyperspace. And the thing is all this information is programmable. And the good example of the hydrogen hyperfine transition line is the fact that you can't really freeze hydrogen. You freeze a certain layer of it, and there are molecules still moving, still jiggling. And when you freeze these start to jiggle because it's a programmable molecule, just like water is programmable. With the famous Japanese doctor who programmed water.
Emoto, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay, so
and water is programmable, air is programmable. Every element there's 150 elements, which
Yeah.
There's a lot that we don't know, that we haven't recorded. We know about them, but they're not recorded. And
So
they have attributes.
So is this related to the Schumann frequency? Because what I understand about the Schumann frequency is that it doesn't only represent the resonance of the planet, but of us as well. Is that a fair characterization, or is that a misunderstanding?
Yeah, it's a lot of things, but it goes back to those three forces, which are both electromagnetic, they're both plasmic, and they're both post-plasmic. And it's how we're all put together. That's how we're all created. And basically, Maxwell equation cuts out most of the information. And when I tried to ask questions about it in college, I was told it was none of my business. I had no need to know. I had the clearance for it, but not the need to know. Well, through some of these projects, I discovered them, and I discovered that I had access to this on a genetic level simply because of the way I was put together. It's like Duncan. Duncan has a tremendous amount of natural DNA and RNA connection to the morphogenic field, to the point where he can lift buckets upside down. He can lift buckets and turn them upside down. That's what they had him doing as a kid.
And you're talking about Duncan O'Finian, just to be clear for our viewers,
Yes.
who don't know who you're talking about. We've interviewed Duncan. He's a friend of the GoldFish Report, and actually we're going to be interviewing Duncan again soon. We've been trying to work that out, but and talk about these things. We're talking about. And he's an expert in the esoteric arts. So that does involve this morphogenic field that you're talking about. So it does support that. But what also supports, there's other evidence to support what you're saying. What we have here is a chart. Well, actually, you know what? Before I go to the chart, why don't I screen share this COM12 briefing really quick that talks about, and I hope I'm not interrupting your train of thought too much, but
No. I just wanted to say that Duncan had the ability to program matter to the point where he could lift 1,200 pounds, and he did it in my present. He literally put his hand on the bar, and he began to touch the waist, and he changed the molecular structure based on his perception by his amazing ability to access the morphogenic field. And when he lifted the thing, it was fine. And then when he put it back down on the bar, the weight of the 1,200 pounds bent the bar. So the moment he lost contact with it, he let go of the Lorentz force or the morphogenic field, and the bar, by the weight of him setting it down and disconnecting, all that gravity came back and it ruined that bar.
Okay,
and,
so okay. Yeah, so that's powerful. That's really powerful stuff. But you were talking about this electromagnetic signature you're talking about, and this is a document that that we've talked about. This is a military document. It's on stopthecrime.net. This is the Aquarius Group briefing document that talks about mind control of humanity, and I can review that in just a second. But this is it says here there are 3 types of procured methods of mind control at its highest performance utilization, and this was a number of years ago, so who knows where it's at now. But this is called EDOM, electronic dissolution of memory, EEOM, which is electronic enhancement of memory, and then RHIC, which is radio hypnotic intracerebral control. This is what. So it says here, RHIC techniques call for the implantation of a micro-sized electronic radio receiver. The implantation most frequently is made by highly trained teams within the intelligence community. The procedure involves the insertion of the micro receiver or transceiver into the desired subject's area, such as the frontal lobe or temporal lobe of the subject in question. The device acts as a stimulator, which can stimulate a muscle, nerve, or brain frequency upon receiving the proper signal, and will then initiate a desired response. The receiver generates sensory impulses, which are then received through different nerves. These register as sensations, which are the basis for perception. So this is what some people think, you know, that they're hearing voices. This is how the voice, I guess, is this how the voice of God technology works
I'd
too?
just like to add that before, in the pre-talk we did, Dan knew exactly what was on this paper. He mentioned the radio hypnotic intracerebral control before we even pull this document up. Just like to add that.
Yes, and because what we were talking about was this here. Another type of RHIC technology, which is currently being utilized, is a more sophisticated manipulation, which utilizes a personal radio and electromagnetic frequency allocation, better known in some intelligence circles as primary or prima. This is obtained by a simple scan involving the acquisition of an individual's actual frequency allocation, which are as unique to an individual as RNA and DNA codes. This is called, folks, your prime frequency, your prime. It's like the aggregate resonance of your own electromagnetic field around your body. It's a prime frequency. Right, it's a signature, like a thumbprint. It's unique to you. And what they're doing here is it says, once the prime frequency or prime freak is obtained, procedures may be introduced which will affect only the individual in question. This is obtained through direct manipulation of this individual's primary frequency allocation. So I just wanted to read that. It says here that this method achieves the desired outcome through radio waves in the 800 megahertz band, where the vital human brain frequency resonation is located.
That's cellular telephones, isn't it?
Absolutely. It's exact frequency. And the thing is, in 1974, they had to put these implants in you. But with nano and microbotics and nanobotics, even femtobotics, and that is another classified concept. But with the invention of making things tinier and smaller and making robotics that will build itself on a micro and nano and femto level, they can implant you by a much less, well, it's invasive nonetheless, but it's just not detectable as
less
being
obvious.
highly invasive. You know, I mean, before they had to drill you out, put it in, and that was considered traumatically invasive.
Right.
This is less traumatically invasive, but it's actually more invasive because it completely encapsulates your brain in a field of controllable electronics.
So just to be clear, the earlier implants required a surgical operation in the 70s. Yeah. And now, from 1999 or thereabouts, they started in the chemtrails just randomly spraying it into the air, that we would have these nanoparticles, these microparticles.
Then everybody would be controllable. When back in the day, in the 50s, in the 60s, they implanted implants right here on me, on my upper left-hand shoulder, because they didn't have the 4G, 3G, 4G, 5G Wi-Fi where they could connect. The connectability was better. So they put it on your left shoulder, and I had to cut that thing out and get rid of it, and I had to flush it down the toilet, or put it on. So I put one on a piece of tape and put it on a dog. They're looking for me somewhere in the Yukon, I guess, by now, but nonetheless, that's no longer necessary because they make the things teeny tiny.
Yeah. So Catherine, Catherine, she talked about the implants that she had. Were they visible on an X-ray in a hospital?
They should be.
Only I mean, because they do build larger versions of themselves. The nanophasing is much larger than a nanometer, and you have this accumulation. But it's misinterpreted most of the time unless you have a scanning electron microscope. Once you have a scanning electron microscope or an MRI that goes down to that level, you cannot hide these implants. You cannot hide them.
I just wanted to know.
And so she's absolutely correct. She's brilliant, and she's going to battle against these the Five Eyes that are utilizing this, which is driven. These people are possessed by the animus, which in the beginning They want to take over humanity.
Okay, so let me
That is
continue
dangerous.
with this, as you were saying, that this is the bandwidth of the cell phones. And let's continue to read this just for a minute, because this is saying here that this frequency wave manipulation can be utilized to the maximum benefit in a population or among selected individuals when required. The benefits to CIA, NSA, Aquarius Group operations, and Aquatech operatives are obvious. Through the ignorance of the general population of the world, the cellular wave frequency communications facilities may be erected and utilized by the intelligence community to sedate, excite, or initiate a variety of physical effects and ills, to implement population control or elimination at the time it is deemed necessary. This is huge. This is huge. This is so huge. This is amazing. I want to talk about this, but let me just read a little bit, because it also says, this is why there's been a war on drugs, right? But individuals who have implemented proper meditation methods and training are more difficult to allocate. Individuals who have access to or regularly use marijuana or opiates on a regular basis also represent a problem in control and manipulation. This is due to the reaction and stimulus in the brain, in the human brain, that occurs with the use of these substances, which provides an immunity of sorts to these operation techniques.
Well, that clears that up, doesn't it?
Well, that also explains why you see Elon Musk smoking pot.
Right.
No
that's
kidding.
Why you see we have this so-called opium pandemic, or whatever you want to call
epidemic.
it. It's not, and people are suffering. And then on top of that, you add the fact that they're no longer able to get pain medication, to get pain relief for viable causes for symptoms and damages that they have. And then you add torture on top of that, and you can disable all humankind. You can disable them, you can kill them, you can enhance their memory, you can enhance their physical agility. And that's why I was rather reticent. That's why I'm rather reticent to take C60 products, because it's a very complex.
Carbon-based, yeah.
Okay, but let's explain why. You're saying, why are you reticent to taking that C60?
Because carbon is highly programmable, and the cell phone has already captured your brain. If you see people running out into the street playing Pokemon Go and they get run over by a taxi, yeah, that's pretty lemming. You know, it's trying to put us into a state of lemming, but that's what the animus wants. It needs that, because once the planet human resonance exceeds a certain amount, human beings, their DNA is altering. It's evolving at a very rapid.
Do you know what the threshold is? Dan, do you know what the threshold is for the human resonance?
Well, the highest, the normal human resonance for the last 15, 20,000 years has been 7.86.
Yeah.
Right around there, you know. But right now we're dealing with today, it's 36 hertz. And a couple of weeks back, it was 110 hertz. And what it's doing is stimulating our DNA to go beyond the binary, to go back to what it used to be. Before the Anunnaki got here, we were trinary and greater. We had 12 strands of DNA. In 1999, began the Earth stimulated the birth of many trinary DNA individuals. All these children were trinary instead of binary DNA.
Three strands.
We naturally have three strands. The thing is a certain conquering race would disable the third strand, and then it swapped the neural hardwiring, the neurological hardwiring of the brain, and made it more difficult, because your left brain controls your right side, your right brain controls your left
all
side.
Bipolar. Yeah.
Yeah, what you're doing is you're slowing down the thought
connection
process to
okay.
around 12 hertz. You're stopping them from thinking, where non-terrestrials would think somewhere around 50 to 75 hertz. Their brain actually responds on that. We're, 12 hertz and below. So it makes us good.
Intelligence suppression, basically.
Yes, and now that the Earth is starting to stimulate our DNA, we're getting the 3 strands of DNA. Each one, as the Schumann resonance grows, each one of these 3 strands will grow another 3 strands for a total of 2 strands altogether.
Yep.
By that time, you're ready and necessary for you to go into the 5th dimension. You can no longer live in the high 4th or the low 4th or the 3rd dimension.
So
you have to move on.
Yeah, so the higher the Schumann frequency, the resonance, the less susceptible we are to the technologies trying to implement, and the closer we are to interfacing with the 5th dimension.
Right. But the thing is the reason Animus wants to do this internally inside our bodies, because it wants to sneak into.
Yeah.
It wants to piggyback in the form of possession. And the thing is from what I understand, it's just not possible. But it doesn't stop Animus from constantly learning and trying. Yeah. And so we'll defeat it. And we've been given the tools to do so, just to prevent suffering. That's the basic thing, is for increasing our experience and learning and getting rid of the negative aspect of what has been done to us.
Yeah.
And to get rid of the negativity in such a way that we can continue to learn and grow and evolve as humankind.
Dan, you've used a very important word there, and that was possession. And that's exactly, I think, the way we should look at this, is that we are being possessed by a foreign entity. It's like a demon possession, but it's an artificial intelligence. That's a very good word.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Animus is when you reach the top of the food chain of who's doing this and what malevolent force is doing this, and it's called Animus. And
that's the top of the food chain.
Yes, and it feeds and rewards the nasty rulers, the Dracos, the Anunnaki, even the evil people down here. It keeps them alive by
they're all marionettes,
influencing us to manifest our own fears. Because that's all. When you look at the manifestation of evil people, it's nothing more than a manifestation of humankind with the metagene factor. We're creating our own nightmare. It's like you saw the movie Forbidden Planet?
No, I didn't see that one.
Well, it with Leslie Nielsen and Connie Francis, I think it was in that movie. But basically,
what's it called again?
Forbidden Planet.
Forbidden Planet, 1951, I believe it was.
Wow.
1950 or 1951.
Wow.
And basically, what had happened is this civilization had destroyed itself after millions of years and amazing accomplishments. They began to begin to manifest with pure thought, and they had all the power that was necessary, and they wiped themselves out. And the reason they wiped themselves out was monsters of the id. They had been so distanced from their primal self, their limbic region of their brain. They had been so distanced from that, they didn't realize that they literally manifested their own fears. And that's exactly what human beings are doing, is by having the fear, which is at 4.5 hertz of frequency, and not the love frequency at 15.56 hertz, they're manifesting these monsters, and it's called monsters of the id. We are creating evil and quantifying it in the form of physicality and creatures, sentient creatures who are evil, and we call them soulless. Well, we're the ones that manufacture them. When we give up the illusion or the id, the ego portion of the id portion of the ego, we give that up, these entities will disappear as if it were magic. The things that frighten us no longer frighten us. We manifest a more peaceful and loving and lovable world.
Absolutely.
Simply because operating at 4 times the frequency of fear.
Let me continue.
This is what the media is doing to us as well. They're manifesting through us a reality. That's exactly what they're doing.
They're trying to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Most
no,
of the time they
They're
succeed.
doing it.
They are doing it. Let me continue a little bit with this document because it's extremely illuminating. Here we have, it says chemical control bases in public population will be present in 95% of the population. Those individuals who may not be affected by frequency control due to the usage of certain drugs will most likely negate their immunity with the chemical base they have built up over the years in their everyday use and exposure of those agents. With a general ignorance through arrogance of most public population in the US, the erection of large cellular towers being carried out under high tone and Xeno are largely going completely unnoticed. These projects are being carried out in private business capacities and therefore in deep black operations cover. However, public populations would be wise to educate themselves in the construction of these seemingly innocent towers in large population areas. The cellular 800 megahertz waves are a constant wave. Due to the great proliferation of towers in key population areas, they will have a devastating effect when utilized by Aquarius group operations if the condition persists. There's photographs that are not part of this. I didn't get those photographs that are attached. So here it's saying that all these methods have been or are currently being used by military intelligence groups to effect mind control. These agencies which utilize and still utilize these methods are most notably the CIA and the Office of Naval Intelligence. And we knew that because of William Cooper's book, Behold a Pale Horse. It talked about all of this. He published a book and, of course, was subsequently killed for doing so. The Office of Naval Intelligence most frequently utilized these methods in recruitment of assassins who were both aware and unaware of the training they were exposed to. These electronic procedures, as well as repeated exposure to films and photographs of an extremely violent nature and orientation, would achieve the desired effect. Eventually, these individuals were and are assigned out to attachments with American embassies overseas. The largest of these mind control programs under the auspices of the CIA, ONI, and National Security Agency are as follows: MKUltra, MK Draco, Hatter, Reach, Bluebird, Artichoke, MK Xeno, Dancer, and Watchtower. Many people have heard of these. This isn't the first time people are hearing of these programs. And here it's talking about Jonestown, which I know we had a conversation about once, is not unique as a controlled environment which was created under the need for discretion in carrying out the covert operations of the Ultra programs. The fact that the community moved to a foreign country from the US was even more of an incentive for the intelligence groups concerned. The interest in cults spawned many additional programs with other cults and certain religious secret sects. One of the largest of these cults involved with Ultra programs was the group operated by the Reverend Moon, the Unification Church. Moon's followers were widely referred to as Moonies. This particular operation was originally carried out by the South Korean intelligence community at the behest of the CIA, and their relationship continues today. Proof of this relationship surfaced in the Park case, also known as the Koreagate hearings. So, control of the population. So Dan, in a nutshell, they're saying that this Jonestown massacre was an MK project, or how would you describe it?
Well, with Korea, you have Major General Jack Singlov. He was a part of this. I was a part of Operation Watchtower and Operation Whale Watch. Dancer is this remote control manipulation or puppet master programs. And that was in 1974 that some of this stuff began to come out. And it's all gotten highly more sophisticated since then with many more programs. And the idea is to completely take over the human concept. I mean, if you wanted to record all the memories and thoughts of human beings worldwide at 7.9 billion people on this planet, it would only take like 1.8 petabytes of information that you download every day. That's what you're uploading into the Akashic record, is about 1.8 to 2 petabytes of information that you're releasing from your electromagnetic signature to the Earth's. And you just sit up in that little hydrogen hyperfine transitional on that layer. You just sit up there and collect all the data you want. That's what the Black Knight satellite does. It's an Andromedan civilization, and they monitor every thought, everything. It's like Survivor television program, you know, but they're watching humanity evolve by watching every thought that they have, every action that they have, and they're gathering it naturally through the hydrogen hyperfine transition.
Wow.
And here, just to continue, it says, control of population bases has been greatly assisted in the past 25 years through infiltration and manipulation of large amounts of citizenry through Christian, evangelical, and far-right born-again Christian populations. Through the guise of Christianity, right-winged propaganda and control has been greatly expanded and entrenched. An irony exists here, since it is the Aquarius Group operations, through their manipulation of this far-right, born-again Christian ethic, which will achieve a fascist state which will rival the hate and abolition of basic rights in Hitler's Germany. And this is exactly what we are seeing today, isn't it?
Absolutely. This is exactly what you're saying, and this is why. And that document gives you a little tiny bird's eye view of how this came about. Mm-hmm. And you know, they no longer need to do surgery or implant you with body implants or a bodysuit of implants and run hedgie wire from 1 to 1. They have all the spyware is actually inside you, hacking your brain from moment to moment. And they use the bio API modules in the cell phone and your, you know, every smart device there is. Why would you need a smart toaster? Inquiring minds want to know. And so you have a bio API module in your brain that you can literally shut down if you understand the morphogenic field, and you can locate it near your pineal gland in your own brain. You can literally shut it down, shut it off. Now it'll start back up again when the program, you know, gets its, you know, if you're communicating with an external bio API module. Of course, it's going to reboot, but you can keep shutting it down. You can enhance yourself by shutting down the bio API module using that Blue Shield cube. You're creating, you know, interfacing with the morphogenic field of that cube. It's interfacing with you. You tell it what you want it to do, and it'll shut down the bio API modules in your phone. You may not get calls that you normally would get, or you may not be able to access Google the way that you want to, but Google cannot access you either. So you become free, and you're no longer on the puppet master strings, and you're separated for a period of time from the Oracle Golden Gate. You're separated from CERN, you're separated from manipulations, and nobody can see what you're thinking or you're doing. But the FBI, and that's a low-level, you know, government agency, they can read your thoughts. It used to be only the MIC, the military-industrial complex, or the military-industrial extraterrestrial complex had the equipment, you know, a trip chair and an operator, like Alexander Duncan Cameron discovered back in the Montauk projects. They no longer needed special equipment to find. The FBI can drive outside your house using a near-field communicator, a fractal antenna that taps into your phone, and they can literally see you thinking, and they can see your visualizations. It's similar to what you would see in a dreamscape in a movie. They can literally download this stuff right outside your house using automatic Tempest module. It's
Wow.
not a problem for them. And so, yeah, you're talking about the movies like Minority Report, where you have pre-crime. They
Yep.
see you committing a crime before you actually do it, and they arrest you based on pre-crime.
How long have
Well,
they
that's
had this
not how
technology?
human beings work.
How long have they had this technology?
So disseminated to the lower ranks of the FBI and law enforcement, I would say 10 years.
All right.
So
Tell
I've
us a
been
little
shot.
bit.
Most people that shot me with a microwave gun or a ECCM Venus type weapon were cops.
Right.
They called them stingers.
Mhm.
But this is a killing device.
Right.
And they give it to cops. In 1974, only the NSA had the proprietary NSA material for the microwave oven. Then as you go further, progress on down, from 1974, now it's to the point where local cops can abuse and misuse technology. They don't even know how it works. All they know is it gets results. They'll shoot you, come in and take advantage of you sexually, and you'll never know you were raped. You'll never know you were raped. They come in and shut you down, do their little thing, and then walk off laughing about it. So, yeah, corruption has to be transparent. That's why we need to get onto a quantum system by which, people cannot abuse under the color of authority. They can't do things. They can't, shoot you with a microwave and make you stupid and drool. But as like Steven Seagal says, nobody beats me in the kitchen. Well, I got a microwave right over there.
Right.
Nobody
Well,
beats me in the kitchen.
so are
Yeah.
you saying that there's a positive outcome or something, some positive aspect of quantum computing as a result of this? You said we need to get into a quantum environment. How else would we do that? In order to have this
Well,
transparency, in order to be able to access everybody's thoughts and minds so that you know what somebody's intention
they
is when
already
they
have.
come to you.
Tyler already does that with quantum financial services. So you can't hide money from them. So you give up the reason, you give up the purpose of being corrupt because you can't get away with it. And eventually you figure out I can't commit any crimes, so I'm going to stop that behavior.
Right.
As far as understanding how people are, critical thinking is vital. And they have this Blue Shield cube is something you plug in the wall. Then it has one that you can, like a little thing about the size of a cell phone, you can wear on your body. And what this does is it fills your neural receptors up with good frequencies, and the bad frequencies can't make their way in. You mix that with Altera, the mineral Altera, which reflects and absorbs radiation on an ionizing and non-ionizing level. What happens is you're free, man. I mean, internally, you're using this Altera substance to literally protect you on a hyperspatial level. And nobody can get in combination with the automatic tempest module of the Blue Shield cube. You're filling up the neural receptors with frequencies that is helpful and it causes your body to thrive, and it's nurturing.
Right.
And so what happens is when I shoot you with a direct beam, or as Catherine says, I machine gun you, the machine gun doesn't get through the automatic tempest module. The automatic tempest module is sort of like a shield that's produced by any electronic device on the planet. You'll look on the back and it'll say SEC will allow only so much radiation from this device. Well, that's called an automatic tempest module. And when you utilize this machine, which goes out quite a few, several feet, and you're in this bathing inside this ATM, and you're being bombarded by frequencies that actually improve your health and your well-being, what happens is the nasty stuff doesn't get to you. And let's say you take your phone inside this automatic tempest module shield. When you're taking the Altera, the bio-API module in your phone, and you can have the thing up against your head, still has a difficult time communicating with a bio API module in your brain. At the base of your neck, there's usually the thing builds itself inside internally.
Right. Dan, just quickly, you mentioned Tyler is sentient. That's correct?
Yes.
Right. So tell us, is that anything to do with the Palantir technologies? That's with the military.
Absolutely.
What's
It's
that?
the same thing.
Can you explain that, please, then, for our viewers who are not familiar?
So tell me about Palantir technologies.
Well, Palantir and Paladin are basically guardians for the quantum financial services. So if I arrest the nasty guys, the deep state guys, and I take away their money, they can't get out on bail and get it back. I confiscate their stuff, and I see everything that's going on. And if I try to steal from you, which is a crime, once I've committed that crime, they're going to come and take everything I've got. So it's called the clawback principle.
Right.
You take back everything, and you can't even get a soda.
But this is not,
break you.
Yeah, but the Palantir technologies are not just linked to financial systems; they're also military systems. Isn't that correct?
Yes.
And Project Maven. You're aware of Project Maven?
No. Nope.
A lot of people don't know this, Steve. You've asked us so many of our guests. Could you explain to us what it is, Steve?
It's out there. It's easy to find. It's a project that Google was involved in until the end of 2019, and what happened was that it's a surveillance technology that was utilizing AI to monitor the entire inhabitants of a city simultaneously. Facial recognition, tracking, and I guess targeting. You could. I mean, it's easy to turn the coin around. It's not just observational. So Palantir Technologies, Peter Thiel, his name is. He's the head of the company. After Google bailed out, he in fact was very critical of Google. I don't know what went on behind the scenes. This is only what I'm finding in newspaper articles.
Wonderful.
But
that's good
sorry.
To know.
What's it called again, Steve?
That's great to know. Palantir.
What's it called?
Project Maven. Palantir is it's a company that deals in AI, in technologies on artificial intelligence, and I'm just asking if Dan knows specifically if Tyler is linked to this, or is it something completely different? I mean, you said
it would have to be the same, because what you're doing is you're looking for transparency. In order for surveillance to work, you have to have transparency. So yeah, I would say it would be a sideshow. Or it would have to be connected. It would have to be, because that's your ultimate goal, is finding out everything for surveillance, finding everything out for banking.
Yeah.
So if you got it one for one, it's sort of like the enhanced Promise software package. It has so many applications, but yet it's all tied in.
So when we had Stolzen Steinbart on, we talked about Starlink as well, which is also 12,000 satellites that's going to cover the entire planet with a Wi-Fi technology, and that's basically is going to interface also with these Magellan's tubes inside us. That's correct.
And with solar
Neuralink
energy collectors, because it's solar, and it's where you see these giant beams come down and destroy a car amongst a bunch of people on the road, a bunch of traffic, and you see a direct energy weapon come down and destroy only certain certain people and shoot them. That's solar, and satellites are low Earth orbit satellites owned by the PG&E, owned also by that guy, what's the bad guy, Rothschild. And so when they killed a bunch of people up in Paradise and they burn out an area, they just kill all the people that own the property. And this was all evil stuff by Mayor Dianne Feinstein, or Senator Feinstein. And she actually said to a staffer, if they find out what we were doing, they're going to hang us from the nearest lamppost. Her words, not mine.
Well, George Bush said that too, but I guess they're all
saying the same thing.
Yeah, so we can move along, because we're going to be wrapping this up soon. We're moving towards you know, like we have about 15 minutes left. So I want to move along to, I wanted to show these pictures, and, you know, we're talking about the cell phone and how, as Elon Musk said, we have all essentially become cyborgs. I have some video, some images here to screen share. Where did we go? Where did they go? Maybe you might want to explain to our viewers what it is that we're looking at and how this is
these are particle accelerators manufactured and, well, through research through the triangle in North Carolina at Duke University. These were manufactured back in, I think, 2009 is when this picture was taken. But there are many different styles of particle accelerators, and you have to be able to get them going. You have to power them with lithium-ion batteries, which are highly explosive. But nonetheless, the idea that you have to control, you have to have these particle accelerators with the lithium-ion batteries in order to have enough power to communicate with a bio-API module in the brain or at the base of the neck and all throughout the brain. It's just total saturation of invasive body implants, brain implants, organ implants. And in order to interface the smartphone in 2010, every smartphone that came out in 2010 had one of these particle accelerators, one or more of these particle accelerators. And then, of course, as they moved from nickel metal hydride to lithium ion, they were able to get the process where they could do a whole lot of things. But mainly, it's like what Elon Musk says, you become a cybernetic organism because you're connected to this cell phone, and the cell phone is connected to you. Are you thinking, or is it thinking? And if you ask, what's her name, the AI that Google has, and what was that
Alexa?
one?
Alexa?
Alexa, yeah. You don't know if Alexa's running you or you're running Alexa.
That's Amazon.
Right.
Right, but it's going back and forth. So the reason Jeff Bezos, while everybody else is shut down and all the businesses are going broke, the reason he made record amount of like $374 billion in a month is because he's running Alexa, he's running Amazon through your phone and getting you to buy. It's going way beyond free moral agency, and it's a total breach of free. And he's laughing all the way to the bank.
Hold on, I'm trying to. No, I keep trying. Sadly, I keep screen sharing the wrong. Okay, I'm going to go back. Here's another image that you wanted to share. No, yeah, I've got it. It's right here. Yeah. Can you explain that too?
Those are particle accelerators that occur in your smartphone and in your smart devices. And so that you're increasing communication, but you can also do things to people. You can cause all kinds of hate and discontent inside the human body by communicating through the cellular phone or the smartphone to the bio-API module in your brain, which in turn talks to the other ones and says, well, we want to sell more diabetes medication. So, yeah, you end up having diabetes.
So what we have is a phone that has these sophisticated components in it that know how to communicate with, and don't they? But what about the blue plasma? What about the plasma aspect of the phone and the interaction of that plasma with our bio-API field itself, our morphogenic field? Can you talk about that?
If I choose, if I find that, if I discover or there's a court order produced deeming you an enemy of the state, you can be terminated using this technology. And it's quite heinous. I've seen this material work, these tools work. I've seen the process of what happens when you slow down the photon-phonon dance of life and the Lorentz force goes away. Well, so does the whole construct. So there's this bright, brilliant, blinding, flashing light, and the person disappears. And
well, that's that video with the policeman. The video with the policeman, yeah.
Yes, and so when they say, at Area 51, we bury bodies and we drink beer. No, they don't. I've seen them actually literally annihilate dead bodies.
Wow.
I didn't see a live human being until I saw the CNN YouTube video. And I knew exactly what it was. I knew the device being used was an Armorlux manufactured flash gun.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a weapon of extraordinary capabilities. But I was affected tremendously emotionally. I've seen dead bodies vaporized with these weapons, but I'd never seen a live person vaporized until I saw that video. But what's taking place is the cell phone can produce the same results simply because the bio API module, all the micro bots and the smart dust inside you will, with the lithium ion battery, once you go critical with that, with a particle accelerator, the phone goes critical, it broadcasts the criticality, and your body goes critical, and it slows down the tachyons literally slow down the dancing yin yang of life, and you go away.
You disintegrate. How large is the unit, the Armorlux unit?
It's about the size of a flashlight. I don't have one around.
Flashlight. Wow.
Let me repeat that. I don't have an Armorlux in my house. Don't come looking for one.
Yeah, definitely.
It's about the size of a flashlight, and it can be operated battery wise, or it can be recharged. Most of them are recharged with lithium-ion. But all it is a series of conical iodine doped lenses that are conical, and you have a slit at the bottom, and you change the array of the stacked array of discs. You change them, and you shoot a laser through it, and it does funny things. You could knock out an elephant with a first setting. With a second setting, you could lift a 90-ton M1 Abrams tank.
Wow.
You can lift it. And with a third setting, you can produce an effect of what looks like a person is dead. The third dial on the first setting, you shoot somebody you can get people coming in and looking at the body, and they'll say, this guy's dead. 6 hours later, he wakes up and starts sneezing, and he may or may not remember the incident. But the third dial, first setting, that will render an individual in almost like a state of animation, a suspended state of animation. And 6 hours later, they'll wake up, and depending on how you can program them with tools and resources that you have on a computer, you can reconstruct those 6 hours of their life. And they'll never know what the truth is or what reality is or what happened to them. They'll just reboot it, sort of like the Adjustment Bureau. There's a movie called The Adjustment Bureau, where you can reframe a person's brain by reframing their memories.
Wow.
And now the second setting is what you see on the CNN video.
Wow.
You see the lens force relaxing. I don't want to see it.
No, I'm not going to show the video.
They can go look at that if they want, but to understand what's taking place there is horrific. And
I never.
Third setting.
Yeah. I never saw that on CNN. When was that? When was that shown?
It says that it says on the video. I think it was in early 2000s. But what had happened is there's this guy that most likely is USAP doc, and he's transporting a non-terrestrial outside of legal means, and he got caught. He had a stolen vehicle. He got caught. The officer saw the non-terrestrial, started to freak out. He put his flashlight. He moved to his left hand, and he was reaching for his weapon because he couldn't tell what this thing is that's sitting in the passenger's. Yeah. It's not human. And that's when the guy just popped the flashlight, the Armorlux flash gun, and you hit the third dial on the second setting. You just push inside the dial, and problem goes away. He speeds away.
Okay, so this is interesting, and we're going to start wrapping up this subject of artificial intelligence and why, we've discussed at great length how it is the greatest threat to mankind. We've discussed this through uh, different disciplines thus far. We've discussed this with a reverse speech analyst who is finding this in the reverse speech as a transhumanist agenda. We have discussed this with our particle physicist friend, Catherine Horton, who has discussed how this has been used to target individuals and how she actually suggested and offered a solution to I would say, a solution in part. It won't alleviate the problem completely, but I do think that it is a really good beginning, and it is a solution of some kind. And now from a military perspective, and certainly, it's not classified anymore, but it was, classified at one time. You just have to know where to look to find these documents. And so, from a military perspective, now we have seen in, I think, grave detail what this is, and what kind of threat this is to mankind. And clearly, we are in trouble. And short of everybody throwing their cell phones out, which is probably the best thing we could do, what do you suggest people do? I mean, to make an impact on this or to minimize the effect of this? You talked about Margellan's. We didn't get to showing that video. In fact, maybe I'll show it as you close up, just so people can get an idea of. Uh, I'm going to warn everybody, this is graphic. If you are queasy, do not watch this at all. Okay? It's not blood gushing, but it's very graphic. And I'm going to show this to you in closing because I want you to understand that what's falling from the sky shouldn't be up there. Uh, and it's deliberately put up there for a nefarious agenda that we're talking about. But what can we do? I'm just going to go through this. If you want to comment on any of these pictures as I go through it, please feel free. Otherwise, you can, let us know in our closing here what you think, if there's anything that we can really do about this.
Well, Catherine is brilliant, and her ideas on how to shut down the ability for the Five Eyes to do the evil that they do is brilliant. The only solution I can suggest is that the Blue Shield Cube, the Altera mineral that can be taken internally, are temporary fixes that can get us to the point when she is able to develop technology that you can wear around your neck, turn it on, and this stuff goes away. It just uninstalls it in the program and deletes it. That's what you're going to have to do to Animus, is take it over.
Do you want to comment on any of these?
Yeah, this is all caused from the body rejecting the nanotubes, or what's called the Morgellons, the Hedgie yarn. These people are carrying the Hedgie yarn, and the body is rejecting it as an artificial organ, and so it's kicking it out. And some people are more susceptible to being allergic to the Hedgie fibers.
Right.
And you got to realize these things, you heat them up to 1400 degrees, and they don't burn. You get right above 1440 degrees Fahrenheit, they'll torch. But these things are artificially intelligent. They're programmable, and this is what happens. You see that picture on the right.
Right.
That's what happens when they are just discarded from after carrying the payloads of the nanophages into your brain. This is how the body gets rid of them. But they continue to feed on the body, and they energy wise and chemically wise, and they continue to construct themselves, but they're not programmed. And so they go crazy and do weird stuff like what you see here.
I mean, here on the left side, you can see you can see a fiber extrusion on this. It says it's a leg, but it looks like a wrist on the left side over here, you could see a
Yes.
fiber extrusion right there. But as
Yes.
we go through this, the sores are, you know, the attempt of the body to get, you know, to expel this, right? Folks, this is going to get very graphic. I'm just warning you, okay? But you have to see the truth of the matter here. These are samples magnified of this Morgellons. This is what's happening to people. It's trying to exit the body, the payload, as you said. Is that what you're saying, Dan?
The payload actually is inside the tube, and when it's delivered and it activates based on Wi-Fi, it leaves the tube, and then the tube just does whatever the hell it wants, unless there is a memory, an electronic enhancement of memory, which basically programs it to go to work. And then it becomes a nerve bundle, an artificial nerve bundle called hegemonic electronic genetic yarn is what it's called. It's how you hook one major computer system to another computer system inside the body. The body,
I think we've seen enough.
Not supposed to reject.
I think so too.
Well, the body is not supposed to reject the hedgy yarn. So you have to suppress the immune system in order for the hedgy to grow under program. But the program itself suppresses the immune system so it doesn't attack the hedgy yarn. And that's why you don't see Morgellons as prevalent. Is that the right word?
Yeah, as it might be because of the immune system.
Right.
Yeah. Dan, quickly, you mentioned that there was a supplement that you can take that does aid the extraction of these fibers. What is that?
Yes. Well, there are two external things you can do to electrochemically treat this to get it to leave your body. One of them was this powdered bleach. It was a Sun brand name of it was a powdered bleach. A woman, she was working in her yard and she tossed some of this into her tub as she was drawing a bath, and she had warm water, and she knocked over a container of alfalfa pellets. Now, I don't know why she would have this next to the bathtub or anything. She knocked it in there, and she got in there, and the combination of the bleach water detergent and the alfalfa pellets, the hedgy fibers started working their way out. There was something electronically about that as she was wiping this stuff off in big black blobs, it was not coming out in a clear red, white, or blue configuration. Something damaged, something in that mix damaged the hedgy fibers to the point where it was trying to get out of the system. Right. Now, the solution that the guy covers in dataasylum.com is electroshock therapy, which you'd be using like a stun gun or Tesla voltage. You want to increase the high voltage and burn up the CPU of each nano or femto or microbotics. You want to burn up their main CPU. Right.
That sounds good. We have to be careful. We have to be careful. We're not suggesting that people buy bleach and bathe. No.
Not at all. No. This is something you have to research. Yeah, this is what this is something you have to research on your own. I've heard putting a little bit of borax, a little drop of borax in your water and drinking that several times a day also helps. I really only wanted actual advice, but if this is just speculation, folks, don't try this, please, on your own. You really need to do your own research. Please. Yeah, there's other websites.
Don't do it. And don't be hooking yourself up to a stun gun. Because
PowerPoint.
We know that we can overwhelm the CPUs and short them out just using the body's energy. If you're partaking of white powdered gold, what you're doing is you're increasing your body's conductivity rate, and that's what I did. Is I took white powdered gold. It was extremely concentrated. And it was wiping out the nanobots because it was the superconductivity just overwhelmed the CPUs, and they died off. The thing is it also began to affect my proprioceptors, and I couldn't walk. I'm bumping into walls, and so there's got to be something that someone who is a hell of a lot smarter than me, can figure out. And I think Catherine, that would be something good once she's beyond the lawsuits, is to figure out scalar methods of eliminating.
That'd be great. Yep.
Okay, well, look, I have to say this has been a very eye-opening and extremely informative report. And again, it's all for the public to kind of, make up your mind, do your research, and decide if you really think that these mobile devices are a good thing to have, and pay attention to these towers going up, and understand that they were put up for a nefarious reason. They weren't put up to help us, communicate and facilitate that, because we have landlines. It might be convenient, but we have to ask ourselves, at what price are we paying? So is it worth the price we're paying? So Steve, thanks for being here to co-host with me. It's been a pleasure, my friend. Thank you. Dan, thank you so much for your time and your wealth of knowledge on this subject. It's been wonderful. Will you come back and talk to us again?
Sure. I didn't know I knew all this, but I start remembering.
Downloading it.
Yeah, Dan's got a download while we were doing this. Okay, so thanks for joining us, Dan.
But thank you for the invitation, and thank you, Steve and Louisa, and thank you, Catherine Horton. Dr. Catherine Horton, you could help me put a few of these things together and figure out.
Fantastic.
Some more marvelous toys.
Okay, so thanks everybody for viewing, and thank you guys so much for being here for our 500th Goldfish Report. It's a big deal. It's the greatest threat to mankind. We need to unite, folks. We need to unite. So we made it. We made it this far. It's been a long time, Steve. It's been a long going, hasn't it, my friend? We're getting there. All right, everybody. Thanks for joining us. And this concludes this edition of the Goldfish Report.